All right, guys, welcome back to the Journey podcast. So today I have a really special guest who's my personal mentor and good friend, Ross Johnson. And he comes on here absolutely blowing me away with his studio setup. It's got the best damn camera setup. And if you guys are listening to this podcast, I really recommend you go check out the YouTube version because the video is just absolutely astonishing. But I met Ross back in 2019 when I was gaining a little bit of traction in my fitness coaching business. I had some coverage, but I didn't really have any game plan. I didn't know what I was doing. And I had been listening to Ross for quite some time and I really looked up to him. I loved his content. And one day he came to San Diego and offered to get coffee with anyone who wanted to join him. And I was feeling a little bit nervous, but also thought it was a really great opportunity for me to meet one of my role models at the time. And so I went and grabbed coffee with Ross. We sat down, we had a 3-hour conversation about life, about therapy, about relationships. We didn't talk about business whatsoever, but after that conversation, we started a close relationship, became really good friends. He started helping me with my fitness business and like it radically changed my life. Within 45 days of meeting Ross, I hit my first 10K month. And if you guys have read my book, you guys know that the book actually ends very shortly after I meet Ross, because once I met Ross and once I hit my first 10K month, my life has never been never been the same again. I haven't struggled financially. I haven't struggled, internally. Like life has been a breeze. I've been having a blast. And it really comes down to everything that Ross taught me. He taught me so much about life. He taught me so much more about so much more than just business. He taught me how to think like a successful person. And I know that no matter what happens in my business, those hard skills and thought patterns that Ross helped me develop will never be taken away. So Ross is someone that I speak very, very highly of. And, he's been traveling around the world for the last couple of years. And, there's a lot of things that we're going to dive into with his story. But Ross, such a pleasure to have you on the show.
It's a pleasure to be here, man. I really appreciate you having me on.
Of course, man. So I want to give the people a quick little intro as to where you're coming from and what your life looks like today. Let's go ahead and start with where you're at right now. Paint a picture for the people who are listening so they have a good idea as to what your life looks like. I believe you're 28 now or 29.
29, yeah.
Okay, so what does life look like at 29 years old?
Well, my life is really different right now than I want it to be. And I think it's just because I got nailed with a lot of health stuff over the past year. Really took me out of commission for a little while. I haven't really been, business has taken a backseat basically for me in a lot of ways. And that's weird because business is my number one value. And so, me and you both, I don't know, we like to work, we like what we do, we like to build things. And that's where I get a lot of fulfillment out of my life as well. But over the past, gosh, man, I guess it's probably almost been a year and a half now. I just got nailed. I got nailed. I went out, I obviously, my girlfriend, Jess, for anyone listening, I have a girlfriend, Jess. I kind of went out and met her in Dubai. We traveled the world for a few months, and then I got stuck in Puerto Rico when this whole pandemic thing happened. And I was never planning on living in Puerto Rico. And so it's a really bad environment for me. And then I got really sick there, and I've just been dealing with gut issues. I got mercury poisoning. And I've just been dealing with a lot of that over the past really year and a half. It took me about 8 months to figure out what was going on. And this year has been totally dedicated to just working with the best health people that I could possibly find. I'm working with Ben Greenfield. I'm working with his doctors. And so really business in terms of what I'm actually doing right now, I'm also in the middle of a huge transition. So I was working on my business. I had a program called Coaching Unlocked. I was teaching sales funnels and everything like that. But I don't know if you're aware of this, Zach. Me and Jess actually decided to partner up just a few days ago. It's something we've been talking about for a little while as well. And so I'm actually going to close down my business. She's going to close down her business. And we're opening a new business. Actually just got it registered yesterday, and it's gonna be called Smart Coach. So Smart Coach is what I'm working on now. And just like we always have been doing, we work with coaches, course creators to help them scale up. And really the biggest focus for me in the future, as I'm moving forward with this new business, is going to be all around Facebook groups. So, you know, me and you set up a sales funnel and everything a while ago. Sales funnels are great. They've been, you know, things are changing a little bit basically now. And community is a huge, huge thing. I think you know that as well. You're on all these different social media platforms, building your audience, which I think is really cool. And so that's really our focus now. And that's kind of that's really what I've been up to, like as of late, mostly health stuff.
I love it, man. I love it. Tell me about the time in Puerto Rico. What was that like being out in Puerto Rico for that year? Because I know that in the entrepreneur space, Puerto Rico is kind of like this glorified dream. Like, oh, it's a tax haven. For everybody who's listening, I think Puerto Rico has 4% tax, which is pretty hefty savings when you're up there in the multiple figure range. And so I'm very curious as to hear what your firsthand taste was like actually living out that quote unquote dream.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it, quote unquote dream. Nothing against Puerto Rico. If anyone lives in Puerto Rico, you know, who's listening to this, like Puerto Rico is a really beautiful place. Everyone in Puerto Rico is really friendly. The thing about Puerto Rico for me personally, though, coming from America, was I never really planned to live there. So I wanted to do this tax strategy. I'm always interested in saving money on taxes. Obviously, everyone is probably, if you're smart, you are. And I lived in California, and I paid, you know, close to 7 figures in taxes one year. And I was just like, man, I just can't believe this, right? Like that was more money than I ever thought I'd make when I was younger. And so I was like, I have to get out of California. This is not fair. And so I was like, all right, well, we'll do Puerto Rico. I've ended this pattern, but I'm a very extreme person. So I'll go one way and then I'll go way the opposite way. And then I'll kind of end up in the middle somewhere. So I was like, well, fuck it. Like I'm going to go to Puerto Rico. I got it all set up. And what I did was I rented a house there, and I got an all right house. Okay. I got an all right house because I knew I'd have to be there like 2 months out of the year. And so I was like a house that I was okay living in for 60 days. But I didn't get like a nice house. Right. And I didn't get a house anywhere in Puerto Rico where like all the like quote unquote rich entrepreneurs would get a house. So it wasn't a bad area. It wasn't a bad house, but it wasn't a place that I was planning on living. And so what happened was I met this girl, Jess Moore, and we talked online, and she was like, you should come to Dubai and meet me. She was going to go there for skydiving lessons. She was living in Bali. And I was like, cool, let's fucking do it. And so we went there, we traveled around for a month. We went to Paris for a month. We went to Egypt for a little while. And then everyone was like, oh, this pandemic thing. We started hearing the word pandemic a lot. And I was like, yeah, like probably not a big deal. So we go to Puerto Rico because I have to we'll just call it like paying my dues. I had to like pay my dues there for taxes. So I needed to go there for like 30 days before I could go travel the world more, which was the plan. The plan was to get a house and then travel the world 10 months out of the year. So I was like, I'm never going to be in Puerto Rico. So it doesn't matter if I have a house there. And I was saving so much money on taxes. The house was just like basically free. And so I was trying to capitalize on that. And then what happened was Puerto Rico was actually like, you can't leave the country. And so it got really weird. And then they closed everything. They closed everything down. You weren't allowed to go outside. You weren't allowed to walk around in your own neighborhood. You couldn't go to the beach at all. Like it didn't matter. Like in the United States, in a lot of places, it was like, yeah, you can go to the beach. You can go for a walk. Like you weren't even allowed to leave your house in Puerto Rico. And so it was really weird. It was really hard. And then, certain foods became like less available. So I was eating like pasta and like chicken and like, it was just like totally different. And yeah, it was just really, really hard. Our house actually, I found out, ended up having mold in it. That affected my health a lot. I ate a lot of shitty food. I was drinking a lot before that. I ended up losing all the muscle we put on together, Zach, because the gyms were closed. I was trying to do these at-home workouts, super hard to stay motivated. Since then, a terrible environment. And yeah, I had to stay there until for 8 months. And meanwhile, I love Jess, I love my girlfriend. But I just met this girl and I'm now basically living with her every second of every day with nothing to do except work on business. And you can't go outside. So we drove each other crazy a little bit. So it's just a big, big transformation that year. And so many things were inconvenient. Me and Jess paid $300 for two 20-pound dumbbell weights. Like it was just crazy to get stuff to the island. We paid like $3,000 for like a $200 treadmill. Like it was just like crazy. And so I was just excited to get out of there. And once I did, I was like, I'm just never leaving America again because it's so convenient. And you have all this freedom. And I just looked at where I used to live in a totally different light than I ever had before. And so I will not be going back to Puerto Rico. I don't really get it. I don't actually, now that I have lived there, I don't get it. Some people are like, Puerto Rico's sick. I'm living in my dream life, but there's really not much to do there except for like sit on the beach. And that's cool for like a month, but it wasn't for me.
Yeah, dude, that is a freaking crazy story. I was cracking up the fact that you're just like, yeah, I'm in this house with this girl that I just met, and now we're locked up for 8 months in this super inconvenient place. I'm sure that put a test to both of you guys' relationship. I'm sure you guys came out stronger on the other side too, though.
Oh yeah. I mean, mostly her, because like, I ask really, this isn't even, I don't even know how to control this, but I ask really, I don't know. I think I have like really intense questioning, or I ask people questions and make them think about themselves. So yeah, she learned a lot about herself really quickly.
I love it, man. I love it.
Or like did better,
What lessons do you think you learned out of that Puerto Rico experience that you are pulling with you now that you're back in the United States? Like, what do you think you're a little bit more grateful about that you took for granted before you left?
Well, convenience. It would take 3 weeks to get an Amazon package shipped to Puerto Rico. So I can get Amazon packages shipped to my house today. Like, that was huge. People there are really different about like noise and stuff. So my neighbors, they would have parties at like till like 3 a.m. And I just the things that I really value now are my sleep. I really value like peace and quiet. I really value convenience. I really value just the United States. Like there's just so much freedom here, at least for the time being. And yeah, I just think I didn't realize what I had. And I'm glad I left, because I think a lot of people do take it for granted. They take a lot of stuff that they have here for granted, and then they don't travel the world. And so they don't really know what it's like in other places. Not like Puerto Rico is like this terrible place or whatever, but it's just different. There's a lot of trash everywhere. There's just, it's just it's a different country, right? It's just different. And I personally, being accustomed to everything in America, everything being like very clean for the most part, super convenient. Also for me, I was planning on learning how to speak Spanish, because like, I'm living in another country. I should probably learn how to speak Spanish a little bit, but I couldn't interact with anyone in Puerto Rico to learn Spanish. So I couldn't, like, for example, like the person who, we had like a gate guard, right? And so like every single time someone would like be coming to my house to drop off a package or like drop off groceries or like whatever, they would call me in Spanish, and they didn't speak any English. And I couldn't even like learn Spanish. I was like trying to look at it up online, but it's like so hard to do it that way without actually like testing it in the field, So I just think the convenience, I think like speaking English, like for me, for like 8 months. And I was also in Dubai, I was in Paris before that. It's like, it was a whole year where like, I really didn't talk to anyone who spoke English. And, not that that's like a problem or whatever, but when it comes to like having a sense of community and everything like that, it was just me and Jess for like a year, So it was just a trip. I think I'm really grateful to just have an easier life. Honestly, it felt like my life. It felt like everything was just hard there, to be honest.
I feel like a lot of people like to talk shit on America, and it's like, you guys don't even know how good you guys have it. Like, America is the best fucking country to live in. Like, sure, we have our problems. Sure, we can be better at like a lot of things, but like, given the grand scheme of things, like, we have it so good. And I really got that experience when I moved to Virginia. And Virginia is not even anywhere close like to Puerto Rico. Virginia is still very much in the United States, but even just being in the fitness community and surrounded by entrepreneurs here in San Diego, leaving San Diego go live somewhere a little bit more rural and like more IT focused, it was such a culture shock. And I'm like, man, like we really do have it good here in San Diego and in California. But I'm curious, are you ever going to pick up the plans to go travel again if when the world opens up and things go back to normal? Is that still on your bucket list?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think like that's like the last thing on my to-do list. To be honest, I think the past couple of years have really changed me. Like they just really changed how I think about stuff. When it comes to traveling, I think when I was in LA, I was recently out of a breakup. I dated Rachel Bell. We built a business together. It was almost like we were married. Like there was so much interconnection with our business and our bank accounts and our lives and everything like that. It was like it felt like a divorce. So when it was like done with that, I was like, I'm gonna get out there and like find myself again. Cause I kind of lost myself in that relationship. You're with someone for 4 years and it's like by the time you're done with it, it's like you got to go figure out who you are all over again. And so I moved to LA and I got a new car, I got a new place to live, I got some new friends. We started hanging out more because I was in town, and it was really, really great for me to like do all that stuff. But I really wanted to go experience life. I think before I was like head down building my business for as long as I can remember. I started trying to build businesses when I was 20 and I didn't have my first successful business until I was 24. And then after that, it was like, once the rubber hit the road, we were making millions, and it was like overwhelming. It was like from nothing, which was like a grind, to a very overwhelming amount of sales and traction, everything like that, which was cool, but you don't want to stop when that happens. And so I just never had a rest. And then so once I finally had a rest, I was like, I want to go travel. I want to go meet different girls. I want to go meet different people. I want to have my own friends. I didn't have any friends really either. I had a lot of business connections, but really not a lot of friends. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs feel like that. It's like you have a lot of people you talk to, but not a lot of like tight people in your group. So I needed to go build that. And I thought traveling was going to be this amazing thing for me. And it really was. But what it consisted of for me was a lot of like unhealthy behavior at the end of the day. It was a lot of eating out. It was a lot of getting drunk, flying on planes, waiting in the airport lobby, getting frisked for 12 hours in France because they thought, oh, I was like a terrorist or something because I had a drone. It was a lot of like that. And when I actually got down to like, why do I want to travel? And then also a lot of these places I went to, I went to the tallest building in the world. I went to the Eiffel Tower. I went to the pyramids. I went to all these different things. And when I got there, I was like, okay, I was like, that's it. That's that, there they are. And it was like less fulfilling than I thought it was going to be. And so I think it's kind of like that with a lot of goals. It's like you get the 6-pack abs and then you're kind of like, okay, what now? Or you go and you see the thing and you're kind of like, okay, cool. It's more about like the pursuit than getting it. And so traveling felt a lot like that to me. Like I felt hungover all the time. I felt tired all the time. I felt run down. I just wasn't taking care of myself. I couldn't really do any of my routines when I was traveling. Like we were always working out in like a hotel or like something like that. And the hotel just sucked for working out. So I think once I got done, and Puerto Rico also just kind of felt like traveling for me because I felt like I was like a foreign person in a country, And so when I got back to the United States, the last thing I wanted to do is travel. It's the last thing I wanted to do. It's still the last thing I want to do. Like what I'm really interested in doing now is just getting a house, building a home gym, sticking a sauna in there, maybe putting a cold plunge in there, and just like building like a biohacking like health lab in my house and laying outside in the sun and just chilling and like getting healthy and feeling really good. And I think I've valued like feeling really good a lot more over the past couple of years. I think that was something I took for granted, just waking up and feeling like, yeah, I feel pretty good today. I feel good. Like for the past year and a half, it's been like I haven't felt good. Like I felt like dizzy or like I have a headache or I can't remember things. And that's just because I had mercury poisoning. I had really bad mercury poisoning. Like I had mercury poisoning to like the level that like you could probably like die from it. And
Where did that come from? Is it just from all the fish you're eating?
yeah, it was actually from a habit or like a pattern that I've developed. I so I'm an entrepreneur, obviously, right? And I'm also like a hyper minimalist. So like I don't like if I can make a decision once, I will do that. And what I mean by that is like if I have to get dressed every single day, I'm probably just gonna wear the same thing. Right. I'm gonna make the decision once. If I'm gonna eat certain types of foods, I'm gonna like plan a few different healthy meals and just eat those meals all the time. So I don't have to think about it, right? Because I want to be doing business. I want to be doing stuff I care about. I don't care about planning meals. I don't care like I pick just like a couple outfits that I look good in. I'll just wear that all the time, right? I don't care. Um, and I was doing that with food. So every once in a while, we'd switch up where we're eating, but we eat like a lot of the same meals all the time. So we're eating like a ton of sushi. We're eating like a ton of swordfish, especially because we're in Puerto Rico too. We're eating a lot of sushi. And when we got back to the United States, we ate like a ton of swordfish. We're eating tuna and stuff like that. And, people say that there's like mercury in fish. And they're like, oh, careful how much tuna you eat. And I just like never really took that seriously. I don't know why. I didn't really, I think I just didn't understand it. And eventually what ended up happening was my stomach, it started feeling like I had this, like, it wasn't even a pain. It was just this weird feeling every single day, like all the time in the exact same spot. And I thought, shit, I have appendicitis. Like I'm going to die. Right. Or like, I'm going to have to go get surgery. And so I like went to the doctors. I got a CT scan. I got all these blood work done. And they're like, nope, you're like good. You're like good to go, dude. Like there's no issue here. I was like, that just like isn't possible. So I was like, who's the smartest health dude I know? Ben Greenfield. Dude's like a New York Times bestselling author like 13 times. And I got some sessions with him and I was like, what would you do? How would you fix this? Right. So like, for anyone listening to this, like if you ever have a problem, the answer to your problem is always find someone who's way smarter than you and ask them what they would do to figure it out. That's what I always do. So I was like, I don't even know how to like go about fixing this problem because I don't even know what the problem is. So I called this dude up and I was like, what would you do if you had this symptom? How would you figure out what the problem was? And he was like, I would get these 4 tests. So I spent like $5,000 and I got all these blood tests and saliva tests and hair tests and all this crazy shit. And they're like, they call me on the phone, like, a week later and they're like, hey, Ross, like, we have something to tell you. And I'm like, oh my God, I have like cancer. I'm going to die. Oh my God. You know what I mean? They were like, sit down. We have something to tell you. It was literally like that. I was so paranoid about it. And another part of having mercury poisoning is it can give you panic attacks. So like my anxiety was like through the roof. I'd never had anxiety before. Like I don't have anxiety, but like I was getting anxiety in Puerto Rico. I was getting anxiety all year. I was having like panic attacks and shit, which was, where I'd almost like feel like I was passing out. And it was mercury poisoning. And so I was like on red alert when they called me and they're like, yeah, you have mercury poisoning. And like, it's so high. Like we actually have to like report it to the state. It was 12 times higher than what is like really toxic. And so they're like, yeah, like you need to like figure that out. And then I also found out it was just like trashing my gut. So I've been on this really intense like detox protocol, which is like super dehydrating, fucks with your sleep. Like I haven't been sleeping good. So it's just like everything was all interconnected. I'm finally like, actually like as of like the past couple of weeks, like literally this recent, I'm starting to feel like a lot better. And my mercury level is down like significantly. So I think actually a lot of people have heavy metal poisoning and they have no idea. Like they're like, yeah, I just have like, they don't even know they have brain fog. Like I had like toxic level, which was like people die from it. And like, it can also leave like permanent brain damage. Like it can make you like lose your memory like permanently, which is crazy. And, that was just from like a month of eating swordfish, like literally. Like to me, that's just mind blowing. So I'm like, I feel like so many people probably have that. It was just crazy. And Jess also had mercury poisoning, pretty bad.
That's insane, man. Like, what do you think would have happened if you didn't get those tests done? Like, is this something that could be fatal if you had to like, because I'm sure you probably didn't link it to the seafood that you were eating.
No.
Were you continuing to eat the seafood when you were having these symptoms?
Oh, probably, definitely. Yeah. Like I thought like dude, I stopped trying to do everything, right? I went gluten-free. I stopped eating dairy. I stopped drinking caffeine. I stopped drinking alcohol. Like I was just like eliminating stuff. And the thing is like, if you eat, if you're eating like broccoli and carrots and sweet potatoes and swordfish or tuna fish, like that sounds like really healthy. You know what I'm saying? That sounds really healthy. You go out, you get some sushi and, you get the avocado and the salmon and some tuna and stuff like that. Like you don't drink, you're like, cool. Like that's probably like a pretty healthy meal. So like on the surface, I was like, man, I'm like eating really healthy. What is going on here? And so, yeah, I'm just glad it's over. I'm just glad it's over.
What did the detox process look like?
It looked like not eating. Actually, it was so crazy, man. It looked like not eating dairy, gluten, caffeine, alcohol, sleeping basically as much as I possibly can. I've done so much to optimize sleep, dude. I'm like a sleep genius now. Like I know like everything about sleep. I've like been crazy testing things. I have like data and everything on it. It's nuts. Um, yeah, just trying to optimize that, track it every night. I went on a low FODMAP diet. FODMAPs are like really specific types of sugars. And what happens is they ferment in your stomach like very quickly and they create an overgrowth of bacteria. And so I had to go on that, which is like, dude, I couldn't eat like sweet potatoes. I couldn't eat like any fruit. I couldn't eat like wicked random things like that you would just think like are totally healthy and that you should definitely be able to eat. Like I couldn't even eat like garlic or onions. Like it was crazy. And then I also had to do this. I had to have like 30 different supplements a day. I was probably eating like 70 pills a day. And then I had to do this thing called a Quicksilver Detox Cube, which is from this company Quicksilver. And yeah, it's just more pills and liquids and stuff. It's just crazy. I was also doing sauna 4 days a week, 4 or 5 days a week, just sweating it all out. So it's been intense, and you could see like this is all like all this shit has taken up like most of my time, right? So I'm like trying to like think about building my business and stuff like that. I'm like, you know what? I'm good. Like I'm not that I'm not building my business. I mean, my business is doing great, but and I also have like partnerships in other people's businesses and things like that and investments as well that I manage, but it's just been like it's actually taught me something really interesting, which is how to like exercise time constraints and just constraints in general. And I don't know if you know who Alex Hormozy is, but if you haven't been watching his YouTube channel, you should. It's a great YouTube channel. And he had a video on there which really was so helpful for me. And it was all about how to use constraints to grow. And what he talked about in the video was that Alex Hormozy, for anyone who doesn't know, like the guy basically, he's like 30 years old. The past 4 years, he's done like $0 to $100 million in revenue. He's probably going to do $100 million this year alone with like his businesses. And so that's really crazy, right? That's probably someone that is worth listening to. And so he was like, I'm going to be a billionaire and I'm going to do it only working 3 hours a day. And I thought that's super interesting. And he was like, yeah, because I'll work 3 hours. And if there's anything that I can't get done within that time, I either eliminate it or I have to have someone else do it. So it's like, you're not allowed to work more than that. And so what it does is it forces you to get really resourceful about the way you're working, and it forces you to get really creative. So this was already kind of happening to me without me even wanting to, because I just didn't have the time to actually be working on my business that I had before. I'd work like 12 hours in a day, right? And when I, kind of got sick and I was dealing with all this stuff, I was like, I can really only work for like 4 hours a day, like max. And the rest of the day, I have to relax and just recharge and sleep and all this different stuff so that I can get better. Right. And I also haven't been working out in the gym as much. Everything else has been super light. I lost a lot of weight. It's been wild. But I'm like, I got to work 4 hours a day. And so what I do now is I actually just work like 3 or 4 hours a day. And I swear to God, man, I get the same amount of work done that I did before. And it just, what I do outside of that though, is I read and I learn and I plan. And so during that 4 hour window, during like my best time for energy during the day, I have a plan that I just like rapidly execute on, and I just knock things off my list. And I've already learned all about all the steps that I need to take. I'm already totally informed. I have a list. And by the time I get to doing that work in the morning, there's no thinking required. Like it's all done. And it's actually been really great because I just crush it. Right. I just have all that energy that I just put into that. And I don't really float around. Like I think a lot of us, we get on social media, we get up, we get a snack, we go to the bathroom, we talk to someone else who's in the house for a minute, you get back to work. I just like lock my door, turn my phone off for 4 hours, and like I get 12 hours of work done. It's crazy.
Yeah, I was going to ask about how business, like how you're able to maintain your business while you're doing work. And that's actually a really like great way to put it, is like you just got super efficient at getting as much done in as little time as possible. So you can focus on what's important, which is your health. It's just crazy, man. It sounds like you've had a fucking insane last couple of years.
Yeah. I want to just say one other thing real quick. Like I've actually taught a lot of my students that time constraint thing too. And a lot of them have been doing it. They've been getting more work done as well. It's been really interesting because I think a lot of people do a lot of work and it's really not good work. Like they're sitting at their computer, but they're not actually getting a lot done. Right. And that's that was a huge lesson for me this year with all this stuff. That was like one of the greatest gifts out of all of it.
Well, let's go ahead and dive into that. What does not good work look like? Like what were you doing beforehand that took you 12 hours that now takes you only 4 hours? What was like wasting your time beforehand that you thought was being productive?
Well, I have a team, right? And so I think as an entrepreneur, especially me, because I'm a control freak. So, any personality test that I've ever done is like, am on like a power influence control kind of like dynamic trip. So I'm the type of person who, if something is that I delegate isn't getting done well, I have an instinct to try to take it over. And that's not good for my business. And so when I put this 4-hour block around everything I was doing, if I wasn't able to get it done a 4-hour block, then it either wasn't important, right? So I had to really think, do I actually need to do this? A lot of times I didn't even have to do it, right? It was just like nice to have thing that didn't really matter. So many of us are doing stuff like that all the time, spending too much time designing like a little banner image for your Facebook thing. It's like, just put up an image. Like it doesn't need to be whatever, you know what I mean? It's like the things that don't create a ton of results, but you spend a lot of time on. So I'm like, all right, this thing doesn't matter. These things don't matter. And then if it did need to get done, but it really didn't need to be done by me, I had to really get other people to do it. And I had to trust them a lot more. And so if it didn't fit in that 4-hour period and it needed to get done, then I would have to trust that with someone else. So it made me a lot better at delegating because I didn't really have a choice. And you can put these artificial constraints on your own stuff, right? You don't have to be in a position like I was where, it wasn't feeling good. So I really just couldn't work more than 4 hours. You can do it yourself and just say, hey, I'm working from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m, and that's it. And what I loved about it too is like, especially now, because I am starting to feel better, is, the rest of the day, it's like I have a life, right? I have a life, I'm doing things, I'm enjoying my life, and it doesn't feel like I'm at work all the time. So when I show back up to work, I'm excited to do the work and I'm like refreshed. And I think not a lot of entrepreneurs are doing that. They're not refreshed. They feel like they're just grinding and grinding, grinding, grinding. And, I think a lot of people use the word burnt out. I don't really like to use that word because I feel like people should just suck it up a little bit, but they're like, I'm burnt out. And it's like, yeah, dude, life is hard. Growing a business is hard. You're probably not supposed to be able to grow a business. I don't think the system is designed for you to do that. So it is going to be unnaturally hard, but I think at the end of the day, that's really what it's helped me with, is really eliminating things that don't matter, really delegating better, and then staying in my own zone. So it's like, if I'm doing something that is actually not in my zone of genius, I hate, a lot of people say this, like the zone of genius thing. And it's really bothered me for a long time, my whole life, because I'm like, man, what is my zone of genius? Is this in my zone of genius? How do you know? And, when you look at other people, you feel like everyone else has it way more figured out than you do. And for me, it helped me figure out what that was. Like, what things am I spending time on that I feel like, wow, this is really hard for me to do this. I need to get this done in the next hour. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. And so I would just try to hire other people for it. And sometimes it would feel like it would take longer. I'd have to find someone on Upwork, or I'd have to have my team member do it. And then I'd have to explain the whole thing to them. And I'm like, man, I probably could have got this done by then. But now, once I've done that, I don't actually have to do it ever again. And so it's like taking a step back to take 2 steps forward. It's really like an interesting kind of thing. So those are some of the ways that putting that time constraint into my business has actually like really, really helped me.
Amazing, man. Now, what are some of the things that are important for you to do? Like, what are a couple of those things on your list that you don't delegate, or that you don't eliminate?
Mostly. So right now, like the things that I'm working on is I'm building a program. So that's something I can't delegate, right? Like I'm the teacher. I also can't delegate like learning. I can't delegate strategy. I guess I could delegate strategy. I'm not going to delegate strategy. I'm probably the best person to do that. Content, I can't really delegate, but pretty much everything outside of those things, I'm not doing, right? Like I'm not talking to people in my DMs. I have other people doing that stuff. I have other people like setting up appointments and basically just doing all the other things that pop up, editing videos, clipping things together, like any of the stuff that it just isn't going to serve me, right? It's like, I don't need to create the ebook. I don't need to design it. Yes, I could open up Canva and in 30 minutes, like whip up a PDF, right? That I'm going to be giving to my audience or sending out to my email list or running ads with or whatever. But like, I just don't have to do that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's just not stuff I should be doing. And it's stuff that like, I feel like I was doing before. I wanted to look a certain way, or I would spend a really long time trying to make everything look kind of like a certain type of way. I just personally, I just don't care about it anymore.
Good. Outsource. I think outsourcing was a big lesson that I learned this year. I think we went from having me as doing everything. I remember last year, you and I had some mentorship months where I was just fucking stacked every single day, working every hour of the day. And I literally had no time to do anything. I barely had time to eat because I was doing everything myself. And then this year, I actually outsourced. We have 7 employees now that do coaching, that do, call booking, that do sales calls. And it's been so amazing. And so I'm usually done with work by 11. And then after 11, I just open up my calendar for anyone who wants to book a one-on-one call with me, any of my PTBI students who need help. I'll do like sit-in sessions and like help them. But like after 11, I'm pretty much done. And it's amazing.
Yeah, man. Sounds like you're on the same kind of wavelength there with all that stuff. Definitely the appointment setters has been huge. I think I've been doing that for a while, but I think you've been doing the same thing for a while as well. But I think more recently, I've seen this huge, I don't know how to say it, like huge connection point for all this stuff for me, like with everything I've been doing over the past few years. And that's why me and Jess, we're focused on doing Facebook groups, because what's interesting, and you've experienced this yourself, is like, it's not hard to start a conversation with someone online and book an appointment.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that hard, right? And it's super effective. Like if you want to get your business started and make 10K, like just that's all you need to do basically. Obviously you need to have a good offer and all these different things, but I mean, that's it. You just got to go out there and book some appointments. But what's cool is like, it's actually just as easy for other people to book appointments for you. And so having like this army of like appointment setters is what we call them is huge. But the question is like, where are you setting those appointments from, right? Are they totally cold? Because what we've been doing for a very long time is we've been setting cold appointments, and we're really, really good at it. We crush it, and, we show other people how to do that, and you show other people how to do that. And we both crush it, and our students both crush it at doing that. At least I think you teach that stuff, right? But what's been really interesting about it for me is I've been recently having private, I've been working a little bit more with some private clients over the past year as well. Just because in terms of really putting myself out there, that was a challenge for me with the health stuff. Right. So I was poaching more higher ticket clients to work with more privately. That was like one of the smaller changes that I made. And one of the things I started working with them on was Facebook groups. And interestingly enough, I didn't even really know this, but Jess has also been doing that as well and was planning on adding that to her course. I was planning on adding it to my course. And that's kind of why we're like intersecting our businesses now. Because one of the interesting spots about doing appointment setting is like, if you can set appointments in your Facebook group, it's way easier. Like you can literally have an approval question in your group that says, I specialize in X, Y, and Z. Do you want me to reach out to you? And people are like, yeah. It's like 80% of people who join your group say like, yes, I want you to reach out to me. And then it's like, it's not even a cold thing. And what's cool is like, you can run ads to fill up your Facebook group. This because you've been running ads and stuff. It's so easy to generate leads. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily easy to book a call from the ads, but it's super easy to generate leads. And so it's like getting people into a Facebook group with ads is like crazy easy. And then it's like, you just ask them right away. And so what we're doing now is we're actually going to be showing people how to build Facebook groups, run ads to them, and then hire like a team of appointment setters to just like basically swoop in like a hawk and poach everyone who looks like a client. So it's kind of a trip. It's kind of like, it's almost like organic on like steroids.
That's beautiful, man. It sounds like a beautiful system. When it comes to the appointment setters, where do you guys source it? Are these like international, or are these from the United States?
I personally don't like to do it internationally unless English is their first language. We work a lot of like appointment setters we've had, like we usually do like Canada. You get arbitrage on the cost because Canada is like, it's like 30% cheaper. And same time zones and everything like that. The time zones for me are really important because I like to communicate with my team at the same time zone. Like I like for them to be online. So usually like in Canada and stuff like that. Sometimes we work with people in the United States as well. Sometimes Australia. That's usually where I try to focus though.
Beautiful. Well, man, we can go ahead and start to wrap up this episode. Okay. I do want to actually talk about what your next steps are, because I know right now you're in Florida, you're looking at Phoenix, you're also looking at Austin. So like, what does the future look like for you? What do you have like coming up on the horizon? You got this launch with Jess, give us all like the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah. So the rest of this year, basically what I'm doing is we're opening up our Facebook group today. We're doing a whole new one, and basically, early October, we're going to launch our program. And we're looking to basically be doing at least 100K a month by the end of the year with that brand new program. I think we're probably going to do it earlier than that. Hopefully in October, we start doing 100K a month from 0 to 100K a month. That's kind of what I want. And then besides that, at the end of this year, we're going to be moving to Scottsdale. So we went to Scottsdale. We went to Austin, Texas. I really didn't like Austin. It was really different than I thought it was going to be. It was really politically charged, actually. It was like 2020 happened to it and it didn't go away. Scottsdale was like super normal. I loved it there. So we're going to move there. We're going to get a house. Jess is going to get another French bulldog. So we're going to have 2. And we're basically going to get a house there. And we're going to try to get a house like that's like secluded. And we're basically going to drop like 20 or 30 grand and build like an entire like biohacking facility at our house. So we're going to get the sauna, the home gym, like all the fucking health gadgets and stuff. Just cause I love that stuff now. I've been super into it over the past year. And that's kind of the plan, man. That's kind of my plan for the rest of this year. Next year we want to open up a mastermind. So we're going to do like a really high level mastermind. It's like a year-long thing, probably like 20 or 30 grand. And then I think I'm just going to kind of ride that wave for a while and see where it goes. Those are the kind of things that I have in the works that, are kind of on top of my mind right now.
I love it, man. I love it. Let's get you back out to at least the PST's time zone.
Yeah, dude, I am going to be PST.
Dude, good stuff, man. Well,
yeah, I'll be close enough to drive by too, man. Scottsdale's only like 4 or 5 hours away, I think.
Yeah, not too bad at all. So we'll definitely need to meet up again and make that a normal thing. It's been like way too long since I've seen you last in person.
Totally, man. Maybe we can get the vaccine together.
Dude, okay, maybe. I don't know.
Have a vaccine date.
Yeah. Date at CVS. But where can people find you, man? Tell them about this new program if people are interested in hiring you as a mentor and looking to work with you. Like, where can they find you? What's your program going to be all about? Like,
sure. So best place to find me probably if you want to actually reach out is Instagram. So you can just follow me at Ross Johnson. Instagram, I don't know. I'm going to try to be on there. I think Instagram is just, it's changed so much. I just don't know if I like it anymore personally. It doesn't suit me, but so we're going to be focused on Facebook groups. We are going to have a Facebook group. If you want to join that, you can reach out to me, but yeah, we're going to have this new program. It's going to be called Cultivate. And it's basically going to be about like how to build a Facebook group that gets you a shitload of clients. How to do it organically at first, get some clients, but then how to do it with like really low cost advertising to just like pump it up. Because that's, man, I don't know if you've had this experience, but that's one of the biggest challenges, you know, with getting students results. Obviously, you know, your number one thing is getting your students results, right? Just like me. And one of the biggest issues I think with people who are starting out is like, they don't have an audience. And they're also not the type of person who's like an Instagram model. So they're not really good at getting an audience either. And so, you know, even if you show them how to do it. So that's what I think is kind of an interesting thing about the Facebook group is like, you know, you don't have to be a model. You don't have to have really cute, cool photos. You don't have to go like take photos in front of a car and travel the world and all this different stuff like it is on Instagram. And, you know, in terms of like doing cold DMs and stuff, like it's great, but there's like a limit, I think, to that unless you hire like all these appointment setters and everything like that. So that's kind of what we're going to be focused on, just, you know, doing the Facebook groups, getting clients from that. And yeah, man, that's going to basically be what we're doing for the rest of the year.
Awesome, man. Seriously, Ross, it's been a pleasure. We'll have to bring you on again in the future because I know that there's probably so much more that you have to share. But thank you so much for everybody who's watching. Thank you guys so much for checking it out. We'll catch you guys in the next episode.
Thanks, man.